today I'm joined with Shantel Ornelas with Reiki 7-Point Healing, and also she is ReikiCafe University's Apprentice, soon to be transformational coach. And today we are talking all about cord cutting. Thank you so much, Shantel, for being here. I'm excited to dive in this conversation with you.
Hi, Christine. I am too. This is an exciting topic, and I'm really glad that you've invited me on to open up this conversation and see where we go with it.
You know, it's one of those conversation topics that come up often. Like, people really want to know how to do cord cuttings, and it's not really so much a traditional Reiki topic, right? Like, there isn't anywhere in traditional Reiki training that we would be learning cord cutting, and yet it intrigues Reiki practitioners, right? Like, it's like, oh, we feel something, and right?
Yes, like we know it's there, we're feeling it, but what do we do with that?
Right? Yeah. And I think this is why, I love doing shamanic Reiki work, as do you, because it has that balance of both. It has the beautiful nature of Reiki, of allowing Reiki love light energy in and really bringing the harmony and the balance and using the Reiki symbols. And then the shamanic is really about identifying those intrusive objects, identifying those cord attachments, and figuring out how to release them in the most energetic, healing way, and there's so much with the shamanic tools that we're given that the deeper healing is possible, because and Reiki alone is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but like, the cords are there. I don't think they serve anyone.
No, they don't. And we easily attach and assume many cords and attachments. So it's good to start clearing them off of us in a way and opening up space for our healing when we do the cord cuttings.
Yeah, absolutely. So today I really was hoping that we could kind of dive into cord cutting as a topic and really cover like the when, what, how, why, and kind of just see where the conversation goes, knowing that too, that not all cords need to be cut. And I think that in and of itself is such an interesting conversation. Like, are there positive cords? Are they only negative cords? Who gets to decide whether they're negative or they're positive? Like, even that is just, okay, let's start there. What does a cord feel like? Right. And so yes. I really feel like cords are an emotional attachment. There's something going on emotionally that's attaching two souls. And I want to think of it that way, because you can have cord attachments with people who have passed on before us from past lives. Even if they're not in this lifetime, you can still have cords attached to that, which is really fascinating as a practitioner to come across, going, where did you come from? Where did that come from? Ooh, okay. And so we have these cords, and these are energetic, almost like energetic agreements with the other person in some capacity, right?
Yes.
And so when we have an energetic agreement, there is your free will saying, yes, I am agreeing to this cord.
Yeah. And that's why it's important when we ask for a cord to be cut and sealed and healed, that it's in our highest good and the highest good of all. Because if those cords are here for us to learn a lesson with someone else, we don't want to cut and sever those cords. Those are the ones we want to keep for that lesson. And, so it is important for us to know that. So we're not just cutting everything off.
Yeah, we can cut everything off. And then guess what? It's going to happen within minutes, days, weeks, months. Those are going to reattach. And I was thinking about this the other day when you scrolling through TikTok, and you have these Reiki practitioners like plucking energy and pulling things out. I'm like, that will feel amazing in the moment if you can tune in and just really release those cords. But guess what? If you haven't done any of the deeper work, they're going to go right back to place. Right. And so I was thinking about that just the other day. I'm going, I want to do a TikTok video just to go, and this is why you are going to feel just as bad 5 minutes later. Right? Because they're essentially what they're doing is they're kind of grasping on to these cords and these things in your auric field. But essentially, if our free will is like, yes, I believe that that attachment is there. I believe this story. I believe in this energy connection with this person, then they're going to reattach. So we have this free will happening all of the time. And we need to kind of go, okay, just like you said, like, is there a lesson attached to this cord? Is this cord trying to teach me something? And if I cut it, it's just going to reattach. So I have to do the deeper work. I have to figure out what the lesson is. And we can wiggle that cord and we can make that cord a little lighter and less dense and take off some strands as we do the work. But if we just try to cut it completely, and yet we haven't done I fully forgive and release this person, then it's just going to come back to us. Right.
Yes. And it comes back in many different forms. It comes back as its own, like an attachment to our energy, but also you'll start seeing those people coming back on your feed and social media, and suddenly they pop up that so and so saw them, and they show up in many different ways. Those are the cords reattaching because you release that, but you're not fully releasing it if you don't agree to saying, I'm done, I'm no longer in alignment with this, and we're good.
Yeah, and that's it. We have to kind of put a stake in the ground and say, I am done. I am
done.
fully 100% done with this lesson. I've learned all of the things. I have tuned in. I have figured out what the limiting beliefs that are attached to it. And I am in agreement with the universe that it's done. And that I will take the lessons and I will apply them in my life, and I can release this attachment. Right. So there's that. You have to have done the work to be fully in alignment with the cord release, right? And there's lots of different ways to do cord releases. And I think this is a really interesting topic because, as when I was trained many years ago to do shamanic cord cutting release ceremonies, it was very much bringing my clients into a meditative space where they're in a sacred place to do their cord cutting work and really feel into all of their cords and who they're attached to, and really bring in that energetically ceremonial knife or thing to cut. And then it was very much like where I forgive and release, and we cut the ropes. And this is one of many ways to do it. Right. And
yes.
And then, like what I saw oftentimes when we just do a cord cutting, when we energetically cut the cord, is that not only that if there hasn't been the deeper work, they reattach, but what happens is there's a rebound effect from whoever the cord was attached to, right? Mm-hmm. They are feeling that their energy source that they were sucking out of you, let's take the energetic vampire as an example, they're siphoning off your energy, and you just cut their power source, right? You turned off their lights, right?
Just like switch, I'm done. Yeah, exactly. And they do feel that. A lot of people, and it's not like they're consciously aware, like, oh, so-and-so just cut me off, but that energetic awareness is there. And then they are out there seeking it energetically. Where did my energy source go?
Right. And so I think that is such something I want to bring to this conversation, that oftentimes we have this very traditional thought of like, okay, I'm just going to cut these cords off. And then you have these people in your life that are having rebound effects, and they're coming back for you because they want to hook in again. Mm-hmm. And right. And so we've done all this healing work, and now it's going to test our boundaries. Right. Yes. Did you put a stake in the earth? Did you put a stake in with the universe saying, I'm done with this lesson and I'm going to now uphold my boundaries? Mm-hmm. Right. And so there's the test of like, do we have our boundaries formed so that they can't get through? And then there's also another way. I don't want to say necessarily a better way, just another way. And this is what my unplug technique, right? And this
Yes.
is like such a more gentle way for the other party.
Mm-hmm. And I love this technique with unplugging it and plugging it into source energy and giving them what they need for their love and their healing and everything, but it's not coming from you. And you're not severing that cord and letting them just go flail in the wind, but you're actually sourcing them back to where they need to be, you know, back to the energy and the light and universe and everything so that they can receive their own healing. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes. And so this is one of our trainings in the Shamanic Reiki practitioner training for our students there, that, you know, we can unplug our cords. We can find the cords in our body and see it like a plug, and it's just plugged into us. They're just getting energy from us, right? Or we're getting energy from them. It might a lot of times it's two ways, like we're feeding off of them and they're feeding off of us. And what if we just unplug it from our body and plug it into divine source? Because there's an abundance of love and light energy. There's an infinite amount of healing energy available. And if we plug them into that, then they're going to not have a rebound, and they're not going to come seeking it out from our body, our energy field. And you know, the retaliation that we often see doesn't happen.
And I love the idea of that it does go both ways, because when you look at like being like codependent relationships where you're both you're taking each other's energy and everything, but when you unplug that, you gain your autonomy, your independence, and then that strengthens that relationship to be your individual selves, but yet in a healthy way where you're not siphoning each other's energy and weakening your own fields, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we have so many energetic attachments to this world. You know,
Yes.
I think that's, you know, the beauty of becoming a Buddhist, right? Is that the whole point is to release attachment. And yet we are human and we are social creatures, and we're here on this earth to really feel into the variety of emotions, to have these life experiences, to learn lessons, and to really get to experience life. And so as we're experiencing life, we get to really kind of, you know, sign off, if you will, on our soul agreements, going, I'm done with that lesson, and therefore I no longer need this cord attachment. I've learned the lesson. And so oftentimes those cords are coming in from people who are almost preying on our psychological weaknesses, where the subconscious are holding limiting beliefs that have been instilled during our childhood. Those are really common. So for example, if you had a parent in your life that really treated you like you were a burden in the household, like you took up too much of their time, energy, and attention, and they didn't have the love to offer you, and then you go and develop a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they treat you in a similar way, well, it's easier for them to kind of hitch a ride on that cord, if you will. And because the groove is already there, it's already an easy place for them to sneak in and like grab your energy. And so it's like, hello, empaths. How often do you see empaths matching with narcissists, right? So the empaths oftentimes, in the hello Reiki practitioners, I know like 95% of us are true empaths. We are feelers, right? We want to feel into other people's energy. We want to support them. We want to help them. And, you know, when we match up with people who are seeking to harvest our energy, to gain energy from us because they're depleted in some way, they were treated a different way as a child, and this is their response, right? Hello, cords. We have this cord connection, this siphoning effect, this, you know, why does he keep doing this to me? You know, all of the things. And so the story itself creates that rope. So you can kind of see cords as like, is it singular? Is it a thread? or has it like intertwined with all of these different limiting beliefs with these people? And then where is it getting attached to? So as we're moving through our Reiki sessions, if we come across something, if we're doing that Bonson scanning, or we're just feeling into their auric field, where is our hands kind of coming across a cord? And the question then becomes, well, how thick is it? Who is it attached to? Is this cord have the life lessons done and it's just time to unplug? Sometimes it is. Sometimes I have seen the cords where it's very much like this person has been doing Reiki consistently. They're taking care of themselves, or doing their healing work. They're going to a counselor, or they're going to a Reiki coach, and they're really doing the work. And now we have this cord that the lesson is complete on it. They're done. And then, right? And so unplugging, cutting, letting the Reiki kind of seal the deal. I love, really see that wound where the cord was, and like have Archangel Raphael come real dig it out where that honing spot was, seal it up with Reiki love and light energy so that it can't reattach and be done. And those are some really beautiful sessions.
It really is. It is. And then when you have the clients that haven't done all of the inner work, and you see these cords and you're helping them to release it, and they're not really ready to say, I'm done, it will make its way back. And then that's when you re-see your clients again until they're ready, and that's where our personal power comes from. So once we're ready to truly release and see how it's affecting our lives, then we can release those cords, those attachments to our stories, to the people in our lives. It doesn't mean we're removing people from our lives. We're just calling back our own power, our own energy, and allowing them to have theirs. Even as empaths, we don't, we tend to want to help everybody. There's always, I can fix them kind of mentality. I've been there. I thought I could and I couldn't. But so with that, it's now you have your energy and you can heal yourself. Go do your work so that we can have a relationship that's solid and healthy.
And I think that's it. Like, even if we still need to have continued relationships with them, they're not based off of these limiting beliefs or psychological wounds that we have. It then can be based out of our heart. And so oftentimes when we find cords, it's really interesting to see where those cords are showing up in the body. There's a very much different feel if you have a cord coming out of your solar plexus and literally they're draining your life force energy right there at the hara, right? Versus having a cord to another person's cord going heart to heart. That cord it's typically very healthy because they're being able to feel into their heart space to another heart space. There's not any, it's a two-way communication between two people, right? They're using that energy line as a way to feel connected, right?
Yeah.
I think, right? And so it can be a beautiful thing.
It is. And I think when you do have, even if it's heart to heart, and that healing still needs to happen, because I have my own experience with that. And, but you allow that healing to flow through you versus, from you to them, and have, divine energy and everything. It's all a part of it, Reiki and all of it. But then when you have one that is attached to, say, your solar plexus, that's not a healthy cord. They're just siphoning from you, or even your root, when it's like you feel insecure in life and your foundation's weak. And then you are like, why is this happening? And you recognize because you've given that away. Because that's how I see it. It's like our own self is, we are giving permission to allow our energy to be siphoned. And there's times where I see it almost like you're just shackled. You're shackled to your stories. You're shackled to your past or the trauma or whatever it was. And a lot of people, we like to identify with those things. And how can you move beyond that? If one, you're identifying with your past traumas, two, you're corded to them, you're shackled to that or whatever. And now it's time to lift and have that awareness of what true healing really feels like. And how do you go about that? Yes. And I think that's really what we offer, is the way for people to walk a path to be able to self-heal with guidance and coaching and Reiki and all the things, but it's for themselves to figure out, how can I do the longevity of this, you know?
Well, and I think you nailed it right there. Like, we have to be able to come to a space to take radical self-responsibility of these
Mhm.
cords, because they couldn't exist if there wasn't any somewhere in your free will saying yes to it.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
And so we have to take that radical self-responsibility of going, I recognize these. I'm going to get curious about these. Why are they here? Who are they attached to? What story is connected to them? And am I done? Am I ready to hit the unsubscribe button? And I think this is why I love doing what I do at Reiki Cafe University, because this is where the intersection between like shamanic Reiki and Reiki coaching comes in, because
Mhm.
every client is different. Every client, they might need to talk it out, and that's when the coaching skills come forward. And others are like, okay, we can do this on the energetic level, and it's going to be just as powerful. And either way is good, right? And so I
Mhm.
love that play of like, if we can do the inner psychological, the inner mindset work, really doing our shadow work. And what I mean by shadow work is getting curious about the places that we subconsciously don't want to go, where that make us uncomfortable. If we can step into that and get curious, and I do mean curious, going, I wonder why that's there. I wonder why I react the way I do. I wonder why, and just come in a place of wonder and curiosity. That is the most beneficial and gentle way to go about shadow work, because we're not coming in with those swords and machetes to do the cord cutting work. We're getting curious because it's all within us. All
Yeah.
within us.
And it is way more gentler on ourselves to be able to go within and seek why we respond and why we trigger, than it is to have the triggerer, the person who triggers us, to come out, because it feels like an attack. But when we can take that moment and allow us to have that buffer zone to really hone in on what we're feeling, why we're being triggered, what is it in that person that is mirroring back to ourselves, what it is we need to heal. And so for me, it's almost like getting out of the blame game. It's no more about, I'm going to blame everybody for my own trauma and my own pain, but it's more about coming within and saying, why am I still holding on to this? And what is it doing for me? And then when you recognize that your pain and all those things are just holding you back in life or creating the same emotional pain that you experienced then it's like, I can let that go. I can, I no longer am going to allow that experience to have control over me, and I can release it and understand there's a lesson there or whatever it was, but there's forgiveness of it and forgiveness of self. And so there's a whole process to it, but it starts with awareness. And how far and how deep are you willing to go within you?
Yes, and I think it comes right back to the precepts, the Reiki precepts, the Gokai of, just for today, I'm going to do my work honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, part of this is just being honest with ourselves, and
Yes.
how much of the things that are cyclical in our lives, that we're on this repeated self-sabotaging behaviors, how much of it is us? How much of it are we saying yes to?
Mm-hmm.
And bringing it into our awareness of going, I see that I'm orientating to my past traumas and on this cycle, versus orientating to the future and the goals that I'm setting for myself, and saying no to the things that aren't serving me to move forward on my path. And so I love coming back to the Gokai, because when we get to the true nature of it, just for today I will not worry, just for today I will not anger, just for today I'll give gratitude, like all of these things are helping us to go, it's within us, it's
Mm-hmm.
within our power, that we are healing or not, and
Yes.
so we get to choose. And I don't say that lightly. Like, if anyone has heard my story, I have been married to the emotionally abusive, narcissistic, borderline personality disorder, who, was calling the police every week, trying, like, and just, having custody battles. And, like, there's been things in my life that have been very traumatizing. And I think we all have that story. We are all humans. And yet, when I was able to go deep within myself and go, I'm no longer available to play this emotional back and forth game with my ex. I'm no longer available to do this. And therefore, I'm going to shift my energy. Guess what happened? Like, my ex started going to counseling. My ex started co-parenting a hell of a lot better. We're in the best place we've been in since I've known him. And then to go bring it up to Crown, go, you know what? His job, his spiritual job here in this life is to push people, is to really come up against where their boundaries are. So yeah, he might be flinging out those cords to see who they hook onto all of the time, but that's his job.
Yes.
His job is to teach everyone else how to have boundaries.
Yes.
Right. And so when I could start seeing that from a crown chakra point of view, going, I see his purpose here. I can see how not only has it radically benefited my life to have had that deep struggle, but now I am so much stronger and so much more independent, and don't allow anyone to push me around. Don't allow anyone to hook onto me. It's now a very conscious choice. Oh, I see that cord coming in.
Yeah.
Do I want it or do I not? Where's the train at, right? So,
and that's the beautiful part of it, is when you do have that awareness, you will be more attuned to who is in your space, or even stories, situations, places, because it's not just people we attach to. It's you have a plan that you want in life, and your plan didn't happen, and then are you going to attach to that scenario? Are you going to keep yourself stuck in in the past? This coulda, shoulda, would have happened, but it didn't, and now I'm just stuck there and I'm depressed because life didn't happen the way I wanted it to. Or can you say, there's a reason why that didn't happen, and I'm okay with that, and I'm going to shift to like this timeline, I'm going to shift to this journey in life and make that happen for yourself. And so when you have that conscious awareness, because you've done the work, is that you can see as they're starting to come towards you, those energy cords, and your own self. Are you throwing out your own cords to attach to something that isn't of your highest good?
Right. Yes. And, I think one of the most interesting cords I've seen on someone was someone who was not connected, not grounded to the earth energy. And so she threw out her cords to all of her people in her life socially, right? So her partner and her friends, and it was like a spider's web, right? She was in the center. She created this spider's web with all of her cords. It was the only way to make her feel safe and stable. Right. And so it was the most interesting thing I've seen, because I was like, I just had to bring the awareness to her, going, you realize that you're really ungrounded. You need to connect to the earth. And then it won't feel like you need all these people in your life to reflect back to you your divine worthiness to have energy. Right.
Wow.
And so as soon as she was able to go down and in and connect with the earth, then she could start it almost felt like tentacles, but it wasn't. She didn't do it on purpose. She wasn't trying to be manipulative, but it was very much this unconscious habit of going, I'm just going to take energy from all the people around me because that's the way I feel safe. Yeah. Because she was so ungrounded in her energy field. So as soon as
like a survivor mode.
It was.
So she's putting it out there to survive because she didn't know any other way to connect. Because we don't talk in society like that. Go connect and ground with the earth. We way back, generations ago, that's how it was, but now it's not like that. We wear rubber shoes and we walk on concrete, and people have rocks in their yard. Like, nobody talks, like, people need to go out and hang with the earth and sit with the trees and sit on the ground in the dirt and, really work with the energies that are here for us. The earth is just a big old medicine ball, and everything we need from her is here. We just have to seek it and know it and fill into it and really get the word out there, so we're connected, as above, so below. So let's do it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing too. Like, so many spiritual practitioners, Reiki practitioner or not, so many of us are so orientated to divine source energy. Like, let's look up, let's focus on the upper chakras. It's all upwards. And it's like, actually, we need to get grounded first. We need to focus on, because the earth is right here. The sun star is like thousands of miles away, millions of miles away. And yet here's this earth that's providing us energy, sustainability, nourishment, all of these things. And we can walk on her. Like, let's utilize that. And I think that's another thing when it comes to shamanic Reiki practitioners, that shamanic lessons are so much of like, let's focus in on the earth. The Reiki brings us up, the shamanic work brings us down. And there's not one chakra is better than the other. There's not, it's above and below. It's both. There's harmony in that.
Yes, there is. And it is important to remember that. And it's funny because I'll find spots at work in the go sit on the grass under a tree. And, I had a teacher, she's like, oh, do you want a chair? And I'm like, no, I'm good. She's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I'm earthing. I'm good out here. And then I have other teachers like, I just want to be out there with you. And I'm like, come, And so I think as examples, people want to, they just don't know how to allow themselves yet. But I think it's coming. I do. More and more people are connecting to it.
I think that as we move away from the generations that have instilled this societal expectation and the institutionalized systems of, this is what a productive human looks like, this is what success looks like, when this is what, like, when that generation of like the American dream, if you will, once that kind of starts going away and going, you know what, the true freedom, happiness is to feel into what is it that I desire? What is it that I need in this moment? How can I ask for my truth to come forward? And if it's, I want to sit on that boulder, or I want to go sit in the grass, or I want to put crystals in my bra and I don't care, or whatever it is, right? It comes back to this, like, owning our own energy and saying yes to our true desires. And when we start doing that, that's when the self-care comes in. That's when the radical self-responsibility comes in, because you're taking care of yourself first. And when we can take care of ourselves first, then we can then overflow in abundance to helping others do the same. And I think that's where it always comes back to, like, how are we doing as individuals?
Yes. And then when we're working on us and doing all the self-care and the healing and everything, it literally does extend to everyone else in your circle. And it allows them to have that space, because, you're no longer interacting the same way, having the same kind of conversations or the arguments or whatever. It's like, for me personally, it's like, I'm not available to have those fights anymore, or whatever it is. And maybe I was the one that was seeking that argument in the past. And now in my own self, I'm like, you don't even need to go there. I don't need to raise my voice. I don't need to do that anymore, because I'm not that unhealed version of who I once was. And so now if something comes towards me that was once triggering, I can let that be. And I can take the time to figure out, how do I want to approach it in a way, or maybe I don't want to approach it at all. Maybe I'll just let it be, because it's not worth the energy to have that, or to make them feel a certain way or whatever. So I love how we can all extend our vibration out by just working on ourselves. And
I love that, how we're bringing this up of like, okay, I want to kind of really reflect on like the holidays from what you just said, how we're going into the holiday season. Often many of our listeners, I'm sure, are going to be celebrating Christmas and Hanukkah and all these things where we're having these family gatherings. And oftentimes we revert to our younger self, the idea of ourselves, because everyone has this, our family units have this collective consciousness of who we are and what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to look like. And you might have changed, you might have shifted to no longer being that person in their vision. And yet we have to hold our ground and hold steady and true to ourselves to go, I'm a different person. I'm no longer available for that argument. I'm no longer available for this. Here are my boundaries.
Yeah.
Dinner will end and everyone needs to be out of my house by 7:30, whatever it may be, right? Like how can we hone in and say yes to our authentic selves and say, hold those boundaries, and guess what it's going to do to those cords? It's like they dissolve. We don't, no longer do we even need to cut or unplug. It can just be like, this is who I am. And when we hold our sovereignty so strongly, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Anything that's been attached from someone else, or if those attachments are being flung, your boundaries are allowing those attempted cord attachments to dissolve.
Yes. And I also want to mention that, for at least with me, seeing there's a difference between setting boundaries through your healing versus setting boundaries as a trauma response. Because when we set boundaries as a trauma response, that's when it's like, if you are telling your family, well, these are my boundaries, and everyone's out at 7:30, that has a whole different energy to it, versus in your healing response of boundaries, it's just because this is who I am, and at 7:30 I'm tired, I need to go to bed. There's more of this laid back kind of a way,
Yes.
where the energy is sent out with love and compassion, and you want to be present with your family, even though they do have that collective consciousness of who they think you are, but you no longer resonate with that level of consciousness. It's almost like that vibration just flows beneath,
Yeah.
it's no longer resonating.
Yeah.
So then it's okay. But when we do the trauma response of it, that's when they pull back their energy, they're not available for you emotionally and all those things, and they think they're setting their boundaries in a way that's healthy. But for the person who is being on the other side of that, it doesn't, always feel
Right.
healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, woo, what's happening here?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I totally resonate that when we can go like, you know what? I need to decompress and have my time to clean up the house. And I love you all, and I'm so grateful that you came, that we spent all this beautiful time together. But I now need to take care of me. That's totally different than, right? So yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, I just hope that by listening to this, you guys are kind of feeling into some understanding around cords, how cords show up in Reiki sessions, and how cords show up in your everyday life, and really the deeper meaning of them and why they are there. Because when we can get to that point, then yes, we can choose awareness, we can choose our sovereignty, we can make new choices that serve us. And know too that we are going to be doing a webinar on December 8th. It's going to be a cord cutting 101, where we're really going to get into the nitty gritty. We just wanted to give you a highlighted version here. As we move into December, our Shamanic Reiki practitioner training is now open for early bird enrollment. So this is something that we just quietly open up to our wait list, and it is available. If you want to reach out to me directly to learn more about it, you're more than welcome to. Information will be in the show notes. And overall, like, you get to learn this kind of stuff on both levels. You get to learn how to take that radical self-responsibility, that radical self-care, that I'm ready to step into my healing process while you're learning the shamanic tool. So know that we're having that webinar December 8th on cord cutting 101. And this is really, we're going to get into a lot of the details. We're going to move through a lot of information quickly, so that you can feel empowered to really understand it and take these concepts and put them to use. So if that sounds up your alley, be sure to register for that webinar. It's going to be a really good one. I'm excited. And thank you, Shantel, so much for coming on, because it made it such a dynamic conversation. I love coming on with people, because it just gives so much breadth and depth to have someone on with me. So thank you so much. And I know our audience is going to really take those tips and those thoughts that you shared with us today, and really put it to practical use. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to where this is going. This is exciting.
Yeah,
So thank
absolutely.
you.
Yay. All right. Thank you so much to our listeners. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're in the States, and that we are moving into a very blessed holiday season. So I will hopefully see you on that webinar on December 8th. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, have a great day.